Lisa asked me if I would come today as a poor substitute for the president and share with you all a State of the University address. Just sort of a lot of what you're going to hear this morning you've probably heard before in eWinfo and announcements and other things, but thought it might be nice to collect it all together and then also probably share a few things that some of us may not know about. We get in our offices and we work so hard and we don't all attend the same meetings, and so there may be some new things here that I hope you all will find interesting. My name is Rhett Brown. I graduated from Wingate twice, bachelor's degree in English and an MBA. I've worked here now for 23 years. When I first started, I was going to work for a year or two until I figured out what I wanted to do with my life and then go do that. Well, I'm still trying to figure out what it is I'm going to do with my life. My current role, I'm the Vice President for Student Life and Enrollment Services, and what that means is that I work with the areas of admissions, financial planning, marketing and communications, and then everything that's under the larger umbrella of student affairs. We'll move through some of these slides pretty quickly to save time, hopefully, for some questions at the end. And again, at the end, I hope that you will, if you see something that catches your eye, try to write it down and remember, and I'll try to address it at the end, and I'll hang around a little bit longer, too, after the formal presentation if you want to talk. First thing that most recently happened, we had commencement. It was the largest graduating class in our institutional history. Had 621 graduates. That's a third more participants than we had at last year's commencement, which was also a large one. We normally give 2 faculty awards at commencement, a new undergraduate faculty award, somebody who's been here fewer than 10 years, and then a faculty award for somebody who's been here a long time and nominated by faculty, staff, and students. Well, this year we added another faculty award to reflect the growing diversity of our academic programs, and it was Faculty Member of the Year for graduate and professional programs. And our first winner was Dr. Cynthia Compton, and I believe she teaches in 3 different graduate and professional programs. So Cynthia was our first winner. The other thing that was new this year is we graduated our first BSN candidate students, Bachelor of Science in Nursing, from the main campus. And then we also had students from Hendersonville graduate for the first time who had earned MBAs. So you see some of the pictures. Dr. McGee dialed up beautiful weather for the day. Governor McCrory did a nice job. And then you can see student Cody Flowers there receiving one of the student awards. About the graduate and professional programs. Some of you, I'm sure, have heard this and know this, but the DPT program, the Doctor of Physical Therapy, launched in January, and we had 42 students in our inaugural class. The second cohort will start in January 2015, and it is expected that that cohort will be full just next month in June. So they're getting a lot of students interested in their program. This year we had a 100% pass rate on our Physician's Assistant National Licensing Exam, which was a nice achievement for those students. And our Hendersonville partnership. This is somewhat unique in higher education, and it's certainly unique for local government in that we all work together on something. So the city government of Hendersonville, the county government of Henderson, and Wingate University and Blue Ridge Community College and Pardee Hospital went in on a joint project. So the city bought some land, the county is going to build a building, Wingate and Blue Ridge Community College are going to offer programs there, and because they're all healthcare programs for the most part, we're going to do all of our clinical rotations in Pardee Hospital, and the property is adjoining Pardee Hospital. So it's unique in higher education and something that I think is going to give us great opportunities in Western North Carolina in the future. Pharmacy graduates this year, also 100%, not passage rate, but placement rate. All of the graduates, by the time they walked across the stage, either had a job or a research partnership. They knew what they were going to be doing next year. So 100% placement rate for the PharmD graduates. And you may or may not know this, but this year we had the North Carolina Principal of the Year, the North Carolina Teacher of the Year, and the South Carolina Superintendent of the Year, which I think is pretty nice for our School of Education. You have there a graduate of our bachelor's degree program, Dr. Russell Booker on the left. Carrie Tolbert is a graduate of our doctoral program in education. And then James Ford got a master's level licensure and degree. So you have all three levels of the educational programs that we offer. And Dr. Booker is also a university trustee and a former Wingate football player. Undergraduate, what has gone on? Well, we will be starting, or what will be happening, an exercise science major that will kick off officially in January of 2015. And Dr. John Acquaviva, who currently works in the Department of Sports Sciences, will be the first chair of the exercise science major. Peter Frank is the new interim dean for the School of Business. I hope one day we drop interim. I'm not sure if Peter's interested in that or not, but we'll be doing a search for a dean of the School of Business, or trying to convince Peter in the interim that he should really stay in that role. But Peter Frank will be our new interim dean of the School of Business. And this year we also, with outside consultants, completed reviews of our modern language and communication studies programs in an attempt to make sure we're current in what we're offering and how we're doing, and doing right by the students that we teach in those programs. Something that is stimulating and fascinating for everybody who does this, that's a joke, a bad joke, the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. It's the accrediting body that decides that we can be a college or a university and that we can do what we do. Every 10 years, they do a study of us to see how well we're doing this. Where we're coming up on our reaffirmation, which is our 10-year anniversary when we need to go through the SACS accreditation process. It officially begins June 2nd when 5 of us go to Atlanta for the leadership meeting. But that begins what is a 2-year process for when we submit our materials for reaffirmation with the Southern Association of Colleges and Schools. Dr. Heather Campbell heads up that effort for us, and you may be on the receiving end of some emails for information in the not too distant future, requesting stuff that we need for the compliance certification review. As a part of our SACS compliance, we have to implement a quality enhancement plan. This was something that SACS did about 10 years ago for the first time, and we were one of the first groups of colleges to do this. So this is our second rodeo in terms of a QEP. And last time we did creative and investigative partnerships. It was a focus on internships and a focus on undergraduate faculty and student research was our two-pronged approach to QEP, and it went well. Well, this year we have to come up with another one for 2016, and so the faculty have been leading a discernment process for what those topics might be. Chris Dahm, who is a chemistry faculty member, has been leading the process with the faculty, and then Heather Campbell has been meeting with different staff groups, student groups, and others as we look for possible topics as our next QEP. And in their last meeting of the year, they announced the leading contenders at this point, and we hope to decide on something in early fall, maybe October or so, for a topic. But the leading contenders right now, the topic of civic engagement, how we engage both in our local communities, whether that's doing volunteer service, participating actively in elections, and how we do that on a national and international basis, and possibly involving what we teach in the classroom and where we travel. So civic engagement. The other topic that made the final 3 is writing and communication, good skills in that across all disciplines, across all programs, graduate, undergraduate, professional, math, English, science, you name it, written and oral communication. And then lastly was an idea that's come up a number of times. Some schools have an interim term. In between their semesters, they do a special short-term program, ranges usually from 2 to 4 weeks, and it's essentially a 3rd term in the regular school year. And you get to do specialized programs and classes. It'd be the perfect time to do our Winter National program, other types of service learning projects, you name it. And so the investigation of a May or January term and its implementation was also one of our ideas that made the final list for the QEP. A little bit more about enrollment. The arrow gives you an indication of how we're doing. The last 5 years, our undergraduate enrollment is up by 42%. That's the highest increase of any North Carolina college or university, independent college or university. The last decade, we have seen graduate and professional growth of 480%. And in that same time span, institutional enrollment has risen 92%. This next slide I did, so it will be not nearly as attractive as the ones you've seen up to this point. But this is a chart that I share with lots of people here at the university, and I thought you all might find it interesting. I'll see if I can make this pointer work too. Is that, yes? Is it going to work? Oh, yes. This middle column you see are our current headcount enrollment numbers when we took a census this year. This is a chart I update for the trustees and the other members of the President's Council at the beginning of each semester. So what you have here at the top are the total number of undergraduates on the Wingate campus, undergraduates in Ballantyne, and then you see a breakdown of our graduate and professional programs. You have business, 3 different categories, education, a bunch of categories, sport management, pharmacy, physical therapy, and physician assistant studies. And so this date, the reason you don't see physical therapy here is it's always a fall census number. That's when our enrollment is at the highest, and that's when we take the annual census, and so we technically didn't have physical therapy students. Not technically, we just did not have physical therapy students in the fall. Each year I update this so you see the 3 previous years, what the actual numbers were. You see retention, persistence, graduation rates, which we will touch on again in a minute from here from first year to second, first year to third, and then our 6-year graduation rate among students who start with us as freshmen. And then you see what we're projecting for the next 2 years. And this is for planning purposes, program growth, how we're doing, what we need to be doing. So this is, again, a chart that I put together each semester for people at the university to help make decisions, and I thought you all might find it interesting. Back to better looking slides. Talking about retention rates. When we talk about retention, retention is us keeping students here. Persistence is another term that people use, which means students staying here themselves. But ultimately what we're talking about is graduation rates, that students come to Wingate and they graduate, because lives are changed when that happens. It's what we're in the business of. The end product is graduation. Lisa was kind enough in her announcement to you all to attach an article from the New York Times, and I hope you get a chance to read it, and we'll also make copies available for people who would rather have written copies. But it was in the New York Times, and it was a couple of weeks ago, and a faculty member sent it to Dr. Asti and me, and it was who gets to graduate. And it talked in there about first-generation college students and being on campuses and students of lower socioeconomic means and just what was in their way. And the article talked a great deal about belief, that students who believe that they can do it actually have a better chance of doing it. And that students who have doubt that they will be able to finish, regardless of if they have the same profile academically or financially as others, won't do as well simply because of doubt. So belief and doubt was a key part of that article. Some data of ours, first of all, who are our students? When in that article it talked about who some of the students at the University of Texas are. I'm going to give you some percentages that move up and down year to year, but this is a ballpark and I thought you all might find it interesting. Who are our students? Our traditional undergraduates who come to us as freshmen. 75% of them are from North Carolina. 40% of them are first-generation students, which means they're the first member of their family to go to college or university. 35% are Pell recipients. Pell grants are the federal grants that go to people who earn a certain amount of money and below that. To give you an example of who gets Pell grants, and I always get nervous when I say these words in front of the Student Financial Planning Office because I know I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm in the ballpark, and they've forgiven me a lot of these things. If you have a family of 4 making $50,000 a year in gross income, all right, so a family of 4 making $50,000 a year, you're probably not going to qualify for a Pell Grant, okay? So it's typically somebody who doesn't do that well. Well, approximately 35% of our students do qualify for a Pell Grant. 20% of our students are minority or non-white. Our academic profile of an inbound class is typically, on average, a 10-20 on a 2-part SAT, a 3.8 weighted GPA on the North Carolina scale, and the average class rank of a student who enrolls at Wingate is the 30th percentile. Some other data that I wanted to point out to you today that you might find interesting, and some people have to hear this a lot from me, so I apologize in advance. Others of you have never heard it, but I think it's important. When we start looking at our students and who does well and those students who don't do as well and should be doing better given their academic and financial profile, some things jump out at us as vulnerable populations. And when I talk in a minute about retention being everybody's job, you'll understand why I'm giving you some of this information. But a risk factor that's unique to us are out-of-state female non-athletes. Females typically do better than males in college retention, college persistence. But for some reason, and there are probably lots of reasons for it, number one, they're not a big group. I said earlier we're 75% in-state students, and they don't have the connection to the university that out-of-state athletes do. And so you're talking about a small population that feels like a minority population. So this is a group that is at risk for us, unique to us. Another group are males who are on athletic teams but aren't receiving athletic scholarships. All right, males typically don't do as well in retention to females, but a group that does even worse than they should are males who are on athletic teams and don't have scholarships. A group that does well no matter what, whether they're poor or rich, white or black, athlete or non-athlete, being in a sorority boosts your chances of getting a college degree at Wingate. Can't say the same for fraternities, although at least it's not a negative, all right? It's just neutral. But the one that helps across all categories is sorority membership. The other thing that surprised us when we dove deeply into this information, and it was kind of counterintuitive, you know, sometimes we think that a student will be more successful if they only have 12 credit hours. Well, it turns out that like sorority membership, having 15 or more hours every semester, there's something magic about it. That again, whether you're a weak student or a strong student, whether you're a science major or an English major, that having more than 15 hours boosts your chances of getting a college degree at Wingate. So there's magic in 15 plus hours and being in a sorority. Our freshman to sophomore retention rate is probably about where it should be, maybe even a little good for a school like us with our selectivity. But where we don't do well is from the sophomore to junior year. Our students have a sophomore slump, that if you look at our first year numbers to second year, our second to third should be much higher. And so it's something to pay attention to for us. Dr. Peter Mitchell is a consultant that works with the Executive Advisory Committee of the trustees. It's 5 trustees who evaluate the president. So you can imagine the clout that these 5 trustees wield if they're the ones that the president of the university reports to. Well, Dr. Mitchell works with this group of trustees, and each year he takes on a project to work with us to improve a different aspect of the campus, in addition to his work with the EAC and Dr. McGee. For the next 2 years, his consulting project with us will be retention and improving the graduation rate at Wingate. Currently, our students graduate with about a 53% graduation rate, and the goal is to move that number to a 60% graduate over a period of about 8 years. Dr. Mitchell has worked with a number of people on campus to help put together a strategic plan for how we're going to do that, with initiatives that will be considered in funding processes going forward, and how we organize ourselves and what we decide to do and not. And right now it's a 30-point plan, and I was going to bring it as a handout today, but A, it's incredibly dense, and then I figured how many of those handouts would make their way from here to the lake to your office, and so I decided it would probably be better to just email those to you at another time, but you'll be hearing a lot about our retention efforts over the next couple of years. Why do I share this with you all? Well, it takes a village to retain a student, and all of us have a role in that. I can't tell you how many students' time here has been improved and how many have stayed here and been glad of that and walked across the stage because of their work-study supervisor, all right? Because of somebody taking a personal interest in them. And when you have somebody standing in front of you that you know is an out-of-state female who's not on an athletic team, and she's applied for a job in your office, and then you've got some sorority members who also applied for the job, and all things being equal, it might not be a bad idea to give it to that out-of-state non-athlete female, all right? So that's where we're headed with my sharing some of this information with you. You can all make a tremendous impact on the students who are here and in their success, and appreciate what you do. When I was asked one time, people get tired of me getting into the details of this, and they said, what's it all for? What's the outcome that you hope will happen with us paying attention to things like this? And I just impulsively said, for students to walk across the stage with prospects and purpose. And since then, I've reflected on, can I come up with something better than that? And I can, actually. I think that's what we'd want for our sons and daughters, is to walk across the stage, whether it's high school or college, with prospects for a better future and a purpose in life. And so that's why retention is important. Moving on to athletics. We have a wonderful athletics program here. And to give you some examples of that, this year we won the Eccles Athletic Award that goes to the conference school that has the best overall athletics program for the 8th straight year. I think that either ties us or puts us one ahead of the all-time leader in Eccles Cup winners. But the amazing thing about it this year was that we won the award by 44 points. There have been years that we've won this award by, I think, a half point one year. And usually a school who's done really well will win it by 10 or 15 points. We won the award this year by 44 points, the largest margin of victory in the history of our conference. So that's a pretty good achievement. We've had 59 academic All-Americans since 2000. That makes us the #1 producer of academic All-Americans of all private schools in Division II. And it ranks us #1 in the state of North Carolina for all NCAA colleges and schools, regardless of division. The school that finished second, pretty good school. You may have heard of it, University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. The school behind us in third, may have heard of them as well, Duke University. So we're in pretty good company to rank first in the academic All-Americans that we produce as an institution. Had 14 conference championships this year. It was our inaugural year for women's lacrosse. And our volleyball coach was voted both regional and national coach of the year. And if you want to know what success looks like in athletics, it looks like this. This was at our athletics award banquet, and those are all the conference championships they put on a table as our student athletes walked in. And so by any measure, it was a truly extraordinary year for our athletics department, and one of which the whole institution should be very proud. Development and finances. If you aren't aware, we are currently in the midst of a capital campaign to raise $100 million before Dr. McGee retires. And at this point, we've raised a little over $87 million. So if you do the math, he has about 13 months left. 100 minus 87 is about 13, so no big deal. Dr. McGee just needs to raise about $1 million a month between now and May 31st, 2015. I'm sure that's no problem at all. And I'm sure it doesn't keep the resource development staff up at all, helping him in those efforts. But 87 million is quite an accomplishment. We started this campaign hoping to get to 47. And then at some point when we blew through that, we increased it to 75 million. And then at some point, and this causes Vint Tilson to stay awake a lot at night, Dr. McGee said, why not, let's just do 100? And Vint's like, why not? So anyway, we're on our way to $100 million, hopefully by May 31st, 2015. Our endowment currently stands at $44 million. In 2003, it was $16 million. In 2003, our institutional assets were $72 million. They are now $136 million. And yet we still rank 17th out of the 35 private colleges in North Carolina in cost, undergraduate cost to students. And a bit about that. We tell people we cost approximately $37,000 a year for students, tuition, room, board, to come to school here. Actually, our students pay, on average, about $16,000 a year to come to school here after grants and scholarships. Not loans, but grants and scholarships. So when a family tells you they can't afford Wingate because it's too expensive, tell them that that's probably not true. It will cost you about $20,000 a year to go to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, once you factor in their tuition, room, and board. It will cost you $14,000, $15,000 a year to go to Appalachian State University. And so for us to be in that 16 to 17 range, I think that's pretty darn good value for the experience that students get. I mentioned the cost of the state universities, something that many of you have heard from me, but I think is always worth repeating, is who our competitors are for students. That people think we're competing with Lenore Ryan and Catawba and schools like that, and that's not who it is. When we cross applications with other schools, the top 9 schools we cross applications with are North Carolina public universities. And the ones we compete most directly with are University of North Carolina at Charlotte, Appalachian State, UNC Wilmington, East Carolina, and Western Carolina. And so that's our competition for students. And I thought you all might find that interesting. All right, probably the more interesting part of this presentation, and I will try to do this quickly so that we have some time for questions. Upcoming new construction and some upcoming renovations that I thought you all might be interested in. The Henson Art Museum is going to be constructed next to the Batt Fine Arts Center and connected with the plaza to the new Bullock Music Wing. This is what it's going to look like. You see right here, this is the Batt Center. This is the front door that we went in and had breakfast this morning. And so if you come out the side door, music is on this side. This part sketched in the back is going to be the addition for music as they expand their area because of the growth of their program. And right here at this angle will be the Henson Art Gallery. And you can see it's going to have this common courtyard and plaza linking these buildings. So the Henson Art Gallery, Art Museum, the Bullock Music Wing, which will be on the back of the Batt Fine Arts Center. Notice Henson Bullock. If you would like to name anything, I can put you in touch with the development office so that we can put your names on things too. We additionally have a soccer field house needing a name that will be under construction this summer and will replace our current field house, which we'll repurpose for other sports and intramural athletics. But it will be on this end of the soccer field, right? On this end of the soccer field, closest to us where we are now, the new soccer field house. The old Wellspring, where the university was placed here in 1896 for 2 reasons, a good source of water and a railroad stop. Well, to commemorate why we're here, Dr. McGee would like to construct something that gets at our history and who we are. And so we're going to construct the old Wellspring, and this is a rendering of it. It may not look anything like this, so please don't tell Dr. McGee when it's up that Rhett Brown showed us something that didn't look anything like this. This is an idea, all right? But this would be out, for those of you who've been here a long time, it's where Laney Recital Hall was sinking into the Wellspring, all right, because we built it on the well. But it will be right there. It's where Mr. Cannon was before his most recent spa treatment and moving up the hill. But it's kind of in front of the amphitheater, sort of between the amphitheater and the Stegall Administration Building is where the old Wellspring, when it's constructed, will live. Additionally, this summer we'll be adding to Cannon Residence Hall. But I've been told to quit calling it the Cannon Residence Hall Edition because it too needs a name, and for, I'm sure, 6 figures, we can put your name on. What is the addition to the new Cannon Residence Hall? And so here you have where it will be. Right here is the existing Cannon Residence Hall. Here's the Student Center. We're over here in this corner. This was added. We call it New Cannon. Needs a name. And then this is the proposed layout of what the extension will look like when we increase bed spaces with Cannon Residence Hall. New Health and Wellness Center coming hopefully to be complete by the fall of 2016. And this is currently Austin Auditorium is right here. You cross the sidewalk, it's Cuddy Arena. This is J.M. Smith Residence Hall. This is the road. This is currently a road. But if you have any influence with the town commissioners of Wingate, we would love it if that became an extension of our sidewalk. And right here will be the new Health and Wellness Center. So if your office is currently in or around Sanders Sykes, I would encourage you to get some moving boxes, all right? Because in the not too distant future, Wrecking Ball's going to show up, and I hope that you won't be in your office when it does. Tennis courts are up here, but that's where our new Health and Wellness Center will go. And then also Greek housing, we're going to start on that project and hopefully have it complete by the fall of 2016 as well. And if you know, on the other side of the tennis courts, Faculty Drive, where faculty apartments are, heading down the hill to Helms, is the approximate place where we have the land and we're going to create a new Greek housing village. Some upcoming renovations that you've probably heard about. Exercise Science we announced as a new program. It will occupy the space on the first floor of Burnside Dalton going forward. The bookstore and mail room are moving to Main Street, if you haven't heard. And this is where they're moving. The post office is, of course, across the street, but I think this is Georgia Lynn's, and so this is the renovated building, and as you can see at this point, we're on track for Pizza Hut to come in and occupy the space on the north side of this facility. So you'll have Georgia Lynn right here in 203, our new mail room, parcel pickup, shipping services in 205, an expanded bookstore here in the middle, and then hopefully Pizza Hut on this side. I was hoping for Dave's Pizza to relocate from Marshville, but I lost out. Maybe Pizza Hut will back out. So here's something that I thought you would interest you. Our building that I just showed you is right here, and we're renting this building. The Wingate Post Office is right here, and so this is going to be the new town center. This is where the town administration of Wingate is going to move and develop the property behind it. So this whole block is going to transform over the next few years to be much improved for both our students and the local community. So you see Town Hall and Police Department. Here was the site of the future fire station. I'm guessing the construction of that project has been accelerated. But it's just a guess. All right, so upcoming new construction and renovations. A couple of general announcements. Lisa asked me to tell you what I know about the presidential search. You know that Tom Williams, who was the CEO of Teledyne Allvac, lifelong resident of Union County, member of Wingate Baptist Church, alumnus of Wingate when it was a two-year school, and long-serving trustee, will head up the presidential search committee. At this point, no one else has been announced to be on it. I think that at some point it went out that there were going to be 6 trustees, 1 faculty member, 1 staff member, 1 student member, and I think we were a bit premature on that. I don't think all of that has been officially decided. What I do know has happened is that we have sent out a request for proposals from presidential executive search firms who do national and international presidential searches. So we sent out a request for a proposal to see if they wanted this business to approximately 12 presidential search firms, national presidential search firms. Last I heard, at least 7 or 8 of them had said they're going to submit a proposal to be a candidate to lead our search. And so what the trustees will do is choose a search firm, and wisely, this is why they're trustees, and I think they will probably wait until we have a search firm and rely on their expertise before we decide who the committee is that will actually interview and elect the next president. Now, many of us will be involved in the search. Whether we will have a vote as to who that is another story. But that's what I know at this point. I'm guessing they'll post the announcement that it's open late summer, start accepting applications then, interview throughout the fall, and ideally, if this went really fast and really well, we would name a new president in early spring, perhaps January or February, so that there would be time for the transition, Dr. McGee's departure in May. That's what I know. It's not much. And then lastly, I was asked to let you know that on June 23rd, the Union County Symphony will perform a sort of Pops in the Park here outside. It's going to be a nice evening. It'll be on the Camden Promenade. Maybe we can get Dane to get us some lemonade on the promenade that night. But it'll be a nice event, and I was encouraged to ask you all to support it in hopes that we can make it an annual event for our campus. Comments? Did you find this helpful, I hope? Interesting at least? Yes. All right. All right. Well, thank you very much for all that you do, and enjoy the rest of your work.